Well, when at first, because he's a little bit out there,
Yeah.
always has been. When I first heard, I was like, it's Billy, right? And then I went back and I started looking at the case. Those kids were found. Their bodies were found on the like it looked like a train had hit them, but they had very obvious bullet wounds. And the chief pathologist for the state of Arkansas ruled it death by getting hit by a train.
Okay.
And, so I mean, there's a lot of real oddities to it. So, and Billy was at that time, he was doing a lot of drugs and stuff. The story claimed that he was like the muscle for them, and that, it wouldn't shock me if it's true. Google a story called The Boys on the Tracks.
Boys on the Tracks.
Yep.
The kids that were mysteriously killed, I guess, and left on the train tracks. From what I gather from it, they were wrapped up in some type of green bag and left on the train tracks. Then the train ran them over. From what I gather, the doctors originally said that they had overdosed on marijuana and passed out, but it was later found that they maybe only had the equivalent of 2 or 3 joints in their system, and that wouldn't have explained the garbage bag. And then I guess a private investigator who was doing some investigating later was killed mysteriously. So there's a lot of mystery around this death. So what is it that you know about it?
I know all about it.
Like, what was your exact experience that night?
My experience is this. I was contracted to go down there to kill 2 Arkansas State police officers that were stealing drops. They had stole up to $2 to $4 million is what I was told. And so to make that kind of money, I would have done it. I did it. I'm guilty. But that's not the way it happened, There ended up being, I was there at the drop site. The drop landed. Other witnesses said the same thing, corroborated exactly what I said 30 years after. Witnesses came forward and said they seen the kids being beat up by a couple of cops, taken back where the area by the tracks. The drop was right by or near the tracks, maybe 100 feet, 120 feet. Went to the tracks, were on the tracks using the phone when we seen the kids. Kids took out. The cops took off. The 2 cops that were involved in the drops took out after them, brought them back, and they'd been beaten with flashlights. And they were over the shoulders of the 2 cops. The cops dropped them by the railroad tracks. I was up on the tracks, and I didn't do it, but I was there, so I'm an accomplice. It doesn't make no difference. They took and threw them up on the track.
So why were the kids were just accidental witnesses? Is that the issue with the kids?
That's right. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I guess they were deer spotlighting. And so I said, these are just young kids. One kid was already dead. One kid was already beaten to death. And Kevin Ives was a kid that was alive. And he said, don't want to leave no witnesses. I said, well, it was a clean drop. I said, there was nothing taken at the drop site. And so I didn't want the kid to get killed. And one of the cops took the butt of the rifle and butted him in the back of the head and split his head. Boom, I just split him right in 2. Killed him instantly. Threw him up on the tracks by the hair and the crotch. They were handcuffed behind their back when they came back. And then I was told, and I did, put him between the tracks. But the tracks...
You didn't actually see them put the kids on the tracks?
I helped put the kids on the tracks. No, I was there.
Okay.
I helped. And that what you said was a green tarp. It was a tarp that was put over them so they'd be hidden when the train came by. I guess at 4:30, a train came by and ran over them. And they said they fell asleep because of, like you said, pot. Had nothing to do with pot. They were already dead. They'd been murdered.
So why were you going to kill the police? You said that
because they lied about it. All the guys, the inside cops that were there were the ones that were stealing it. They saw me there and they were freaked out. Who's this guy? Because I was under a mask and gloves. I didn't tell you that. And then I was there with the sheriff, Sheriff Steed and I. So they were wondering, who the hell is this? So they couldn't steal any money that day.
Yeah.
On the drop. And those drops, sometimes there's $2 million in cash and $2 million in coke. It just depends on what they drop. It's in Alexander, Arkansas. So
Who was making the drop, though?
the drops were made by, there's drops all over the place. It comes out of Mena, Arkansas, and Colombia, over in Central America.
Yeah.
And it was the Contra era, Iran-Contra,
But where did they drop it?
They dropped it, there was an open field in Alexander's where they dropped it that night.
Yeah.
And they were dropping, I guess the drops were like every 2 weeks, every month, I'm not really sure in Alexander, but they were being stole.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to happen again. So they were really watching the site. That's when I was there, sent down there, and I was going to beat the two guys to death with my bare fist with gloves.
So you went down there by yourself?
I went down there by myself after I wrestled King Kong Bundy in Detroit, Michigan. And the guys have tried to say, oh no, he wrestled the 23rd or 22nd. No, I didn't. I did not wrestle. It's not on any card. I didn't wrestle till the 28th because my gym opened the 13th of September. I know exactly what happened. It's documented. Anybody can look it up.
So you were paid to go there to kill whoever was stealing the
That's
drops.
correct. That's
so
right.
You didn't know if it was police. You didn't know
I didn't care
who it was.
I didn't care who it was at that time.
You were there by yourself.
Yes.
And then you randomly saw these police.
Yes. Well, I had met them before, and they were, starstruck a little bit with the wrestling and all that stuff. We wrestled in Little Rock, I think, but very little in Arkansas. Louisville, stuff like that. We did. Kentucky.
Still doesn't really ever come to Arkansas.
Yeah, it just very rarely does. But they knew who I was and the muscle and all that stuff. I'd been around the dope game for a long time.
So did the police that you're saying killed the kids, if they didn't know you were going to be there, how did you come about to help them?
Well, it was a secret for 30 some years. I mean, I was going to open my mouth.
No, but like that night, if you were by yourself and nobody knew you were going to be there other than the person that contracted you, how did you end up helping the police put the kids on the tracks? Because you said nobody came to steal the drop.
Right. No, we went to the tracks after the drop. The drop was made and there was nothing stole.
Okay.
If someone was going to steal the drop, then the cops were going to take the guys back. I wasn't going to do anything.
So the cops were involved with it?
Oh, they were involved with everything. They met me and they were all confused, and that's why everybody started going towards the track. When we all went to the tracks, got up on top of the tracks, and there was these kids, and they took off running, and then
But they did have a gun, but the gun was never recovered that the kids had, right?
The gun, they showed it. It was a rifle. It was a rifle shot.
For hunting or something.
Yeah, it was never recovered, but I actually seen it myself, because I've been one to put it alongside.
So you didn't see the kids, the cops, you're saying, ran and got the kids, cuffed them.
I don't know what they did to the kids except the flashlights were all bloody. And it was very dark, humid. It was August 23rd, so it was very humid. And the flashlights were on the kids, and so you could see the blood was everywhere. And then they just threw them on the tracks, and it was my job to. Well, I had no weapons, so these guys are all armed. Well, I'm going to get shot to death, or I helped them.
Help. Were you paid?
I still got paid $50,000. That was the deal, and I got paid.
Now you're saying all of this publicly. Aren't you concerned either that if the police investigated this or someone investigated this now and your connection came with this, you could go to jail?
Well, they could sure go to jail, could be killed very easily. That's why I'm saying there's nothing, you want to go back in a guy's memory. I went and talked to Linda Ives, who I went down there twice. There was nothing like to gain or lose. This has been on the news down there in Arkansas.
Yeah,
ABC.
I saw the news.
I mean,
but why would you come out about it?
Conscience, man. Conscience, my conscience. I have a heart. I miss my son. I was a very, very, I've had really a kind of a screwed up life. A lot of it is my own fault. But I would never kill a kid. But, I have I have taken people out, and I've done contracts and broken legs. I've done a lot of bad things, you know. And you know, he said, "Well, are you scared?" Well, have I ever been scared? Fuck no. I've never been scared of nothing in my life. When you're raped at 4 years old, you're scared of nothing. I could take 1,000 showers and not be clean. I still feel something in my butt. That's just the way it is, man. You know, I'm not afraid of nothing. They want to come after me, come after me.
Now, when you mention you've had to perform stuff like such as break someone's leg, is that in a situation where somebody owes money and they didn't pay, and you basically have to send a message so they pay you to do that?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not proud of that fact. I mean, you don't have a conscience, and I never did. My dad was blind, and
steroids really, I bet don't help either if you have a lot of testosterone in you as well.
Yeah, I'm saying.
So you're saying you may have actually ended some people's lives over the course of your...
Well, yeah, but the whole thing is this. You know, I feel better about myself. Anybody with a half a brain knows I'm telling the truth. It was Iran-Contra, and a very good friend of mine, Barry Seal, was assassinated on February 19th, 1986. And when that happened, you know, I knew I could go at any time.